Hey fellas, I like video games. What can I say? I just wish there was a way to advertise that to everyone in the most expensive way possible. Collectibles, the way a fan of video games contributes to big oil. There are lots of different types of collectibles, which I'll be getting into, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to define them like so. Collectibles are pieces of memorabilia or merchandise from a franchise or company that are mostly appealing to a core demographic of fans. What I mean by this is that you won't see just anybody buying a collectible from a store. Grandma isn't going to Walmart and walking out with a 1/7 scale figure of Joker from Persona 5. She'd have to go to Good Smile for that. These items are for the most devoted of fans, and they differ vastly in quality, use, and price, which is why I'm going to separate them into a few different categories. Who would want this? The tier for items that really have no business existing, and I feel could help spice up a landfill's collection. Walmart tier. Items that are nicer in quality, but you could probably realistically pick it up at a store like Walmart. These are things that any fan, and sometimes people who aren't big fans, typically like. Pretty great. These are the items that I think deserve a bit more praise. They fall into a few different categories of items, but it's ultimately something that would absolutely be loved by fans. Fantastic. Finally, these are the best of the best. Collectibles that clog my shelf space the most because I think they're the coolest. Not a lot of them reach this level, and they have to be near perfect in all categories, but there are a few. I have some criteria when it comes to where a collectible gets placed on the list, which comes down to a few different things. Firstly, the quality of the product. Build quality and the way these collectibles look can absolutely make it or break it in my eyes. What's the point of buying something collectible if it doesn't look nice or well made? At that point, you're kind of just buying a toy, which, hey, I'm not necessarily opposed to that. Next, use. Some of these collectibles aren't just nice statues that are meant to be displayed and ogled at. They're actually items that are supposed to be used, whether that be kitchenware, clothes, or otherwise. A lot of things will probably go into the Walmart tier if they fit this category well. But there are a few usable items that I think are pretty sweet. Finally, price. I think this one is pretty self-explanatory, but I'd like to elaborate a little bit. This one works in tandem with the other two, but sometimes something's price has little bearing on its quality or use. So with all that out the way, let's start with the lowest on the totem pole. Now, I'm sure if you were to rummage around in your closet for a little while, you'd find something in this tier. It'd probably be in a landfill somewhere if it wasn't hiding in your room. These are the kinds of things that you'd be given as a pre-order or early purchase bonus, and you stuff into your pocket and forget about it. Think things like the Assassin's Creed football, or literally anything you get from a loot crate. I don't actually see many of these anymore, save for a few exceptions, which mostly happens with Nintendo. Nintendo has a website called My Nintendo where you can exchange your Mickey Mouse dollars for digital wallpapers and mobile game items. But in the last 3 years, they started adding physical rewards to the lineup, which I think is pretty cool. Some of the rewards are actually not that bad. I'll be showing a few throughout this video, but the reason they're coming up right now is because of the few oddities throughout their lineup. For instance, the Pikmin 4 kitchen towel. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. I also don't have a lot to say about the various shopping bags and Xenoblade coasters that they have, other than it seems like TJ Maxx went out of business and Nintendo's dead set on painting Mario on anything they think they can resell. Really, I don't think many places still sell collectibles like this, which is great if you're me, and terrible if you're the owner of the dump. This is by far the most robust tier of collectibles, and I think I'd rate most of this stuff as average or slightly above average. The categories I think fall here are clothes, kitchenware, blankets, toys, and basically home goods in general. I think there are some things that fit those descriptions that belong in the other tiers, but I think those are exceptions rather than the rule. If you go to Walmart and you go to the Young Boys section, you'll see a bunch of video game related shirts which aren't great quality and the printing will wear off in about a year. They're also pretty damn generic. A worded advice from a former kid: do not wear these shirts. They make you look like a complete nerd. I sure am glad that I'm past that. Toys also fall into this tier, which I think is fair. A lot of people like to collect toys, mainly Sonic fans as far as I can tell. There's nothing wrong with that. I actually have something that is considered a toy in my figure collection because I think it looks pretty cool. It's this figure of Samus from Jack's Pacific. It even comes with a little morph ball. However, I do think it is morally just to poke a little bit of fun at people who like Funko Pops in particular. Posters are also alright. I don't have anything against them and they help in filling out a room, but they're not particularly interesting beyond, whoa, that's the thing I know! The last category I want to cover in this tier is kitchenware. These kinds of things can range from cool dishes to a waffle maker that will toast you a so-so waffle with an imprint of Sonic's head in the middle and it's like on different sides of the waffle on each side so it doesn't really quite cook the waffle well. Again, it's not a bad thing to have, but also not really great. There are some pretty cool and well-designed mugs, like this one that is literally just molded after Kirby, or some of the ramen bowls. They're pretty sick. I have this mug of the character Nico from One Shot, one of my favorite indie games, and it's one of those ones that changes color when you heat it up. This is where we get to the kinds of things most people actually care about. First, let's talk about art books. I absolutely adore art books. It is so cool to get to see the creative process behind some of my favorite games. And art books are even better when they show concept art as well as the key art and screenshots. The best ones are always so full of personality and explain what the artists were thinking when coming up with the ideas that they came up with. My favorite art book that I own has probably got to be the Metroid Dread one. It comes with key art and character art for the older Metroid games, but it has that and concept art for Metroid Dread, which has some of the coolest designs in the series. Of course, this art book is also part of a collector's edition, which is another type of collectible that belongs in this tier. Sure, collector's editions can be pretty terrible sometimes, but when they're good, they're good. This Metroid Dread one came with some pretty cool art cards, the art book that I just talked about, and this steelbook case for the game, which is one of my favorite types of little goodies to get for an early purchase of a game. I only own a few, but the ones that I have are pretty cool. Pins are pretty cool too. I have my fair share of collectible pins from mostly Nintendo franchises, and some of my favorites are these Mario ones that Nintendo created for Mario's 35th anniversary. I remember begging my mom to buy me the Mario games that came out that year so I could finish the My Nintendo missions that were required to get them, and Nintendo even accidentally sent me 2 of the first wave of the pin set. I also have these big Metroid Prime remastered pins and these My Nintendo Points pins that I thought were pretty cool. They're way flimsier than the Mario ones, but they're fine. Some of you may disagree with this next category that I'm putting into this tier, but I think it fits pretty well. Soundtracks. I think that soundtrack CDs or vinyls are some of the coolest collectibles you can get for a game, especially if it comes with a little booklet that explains the music. Unfortunately, I can't read Japanese, so I have no clue what any of these things in the Breath of the Wild soundtrack mean, and I keep accidentally putting in the Goron CD.
Damn it.
I love when they decide to incorporate the style of the game onto the packaging and the CD itself. The Katamari CDs are some of my favorite examples of that. Finally, the last category that I want to touch on in this tier, statues. Figures of characters you like are awesome, and great at collecting dust and taking up shelf space. From the B-roll you've seen so far, I'm sure you've put together that I'm a pretty big fan of collecting amiibo, which is one of my favorite money-wasting activities. Lately, they've been getting even more dynamic, except you, and are awesome little display pieces. I also really like Good Smiles and Endoroids, and actually have one of my favorite Kirby characters, Bandana Waddle Dee. I love when these little statues have parts that you can move around or pose yourself, although I don't think I'll buy another one because good old Bandana D here cost me about as much as a whole copy of Luigi's Mansion 3. This tier I don't actually have concrete categories for. This whole list has been my opinion thus far, but this is when it's really just my opinion. The collectibles in this tier are things that I think are creatively done, or are just plain sick as hell. For example, the Celeste cassette soundtracks. This is absolutely a no-brainer collectible. Since Celeste has such a large emphasis on cassettes with its B-sides and C-sides and whatnot, I think this is a must-have for any Celeste fan. These cassettes come from Fangamer, and they're only about 15 bucks a pop, which isn't a ton for something as cool as these. I even love that it looks like the B-sides cassette was recorded over a different in-universe cassette. Very well made, guys. Pretty much anything from Fangamer is worth a look. I absolutely love their work. They deserve a completely separate video. While on the topic of Fangamer, some of my other favorite collectibles from them are the Nico plush, the little man from One Shot, and the Hollow Knight vinyls. Normally I'd put these in the pretty great tier, but they're so well made that I can't not talk about them in the fantastic tier. The Hollow Knight vinyls look like charms from the game. The King Soul and the Void Heart for the main soundtrack, and the Grimchild charm for the Gods and Nightmares expansion. The print quality is amazing and they sound great as well, which you sometimes don't get from these collectible vinyls. Next, the Nico plush is so adorable. I genuinely just think it embodies Nico from the game with his little arms holding the sun. It's such high quality. I enjoy watching it collect dust on my shelf every time I sit down to write. Finally, the last few collectibles I want to talk about are Mario related. Sorry, I just really like Mario.
Introducing the all-new Super Mario Bros. NES and TV combo set with groundbreaking technology. The Super Mario game has never been so boring. Slide your way through part of a level you sort of remember with mind-numbing action. Haven't spent enough yet? No problem! Build a fucking big yellow cube with the power of Lego. But wait, there's actually stuff inside, and it's surprisingly well engineered. I respect the hell out of whoever designed this. Good job.
Also, there's a pretty cool Mario Game & Watch that released for Mario's 35th anniversary. I used it as a desk clock. It's pretty cool. Overall, I think collectibles are a fun way for fans to express their interest in a series. Even for as much as I joke, I love collectibles, and they're always going to be something I look forward to getting for my favorite games. So you 10 people who have decided you like this video and want to leave a comment, tell me what collectible or kinds of collectibles you like. I'd love to see what you guys think. Sharing collections is really fun for me. But remember, as much as you collect, you'll never amass as many amiibo as the Garbage Man.